Hello and welcome to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. And now's the time. Now is the time. This is the place for you to give us a call at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. And you know what we're going to do? If you call us like that, we're going to get your question, comment, or concern on the air. That's right. Just for you. Just for you. How sweet is that? All right. What kind of a early Christmas present are we talking here? The best kind, right? The kind that you really want. And how do we know you really want it? Because, well, if you asked the question, I guess you really want it. You can't take it back. You might as well go ahead and ask. Anyway, 616-774-2424. And don't tell me, oh, I'm listening on WKZO. That's a long distance, or maybe you're in West Virginia or someplace. Oh, that's a long distance. Come on. Nobody believes in long distance anymore. There is no long distance. Just give us a call, 616-774-2424. You can always go to the website, davidcarrierlaw.com, because David Carrier has his very own law. Well, that's not really true. But anyway, you could go there, or you could drop me an email. We'd love to get the emails. David@davidcarrierlaw.com, and we'll get your question, comment, or concern on the air. You know, if you're just like too bashful to come out and say it. You know, it's Christmas time, right? Getting to be Christmas time anyway. And we are in the longest Christmas that you can have, I guess, right? So you get 4 full weeks of Advent for those of you who follow the Advent calendar. You know what I mean? You get the longest Advent there is. So, you know, I saw the other day was a beer calendar. Can you imagine that? A beer Advent calendar. Huh. What will they think of next? Brave new world. Anyway, so it's a long Advent, so might as well get in the Christmas spirit, Christmas cheer, and all that good stuff. Love the Christmas season, love Advent and all that. So anyway, give us a call, 616-774-2424. This is a time when families get together. You know, estate planning, I used to think, nobody would do it in the wintertime. And then I found out some years ago that give people the opportunity. And actually, it's a very, very popular time to get your estate plan done, because people tend to be thinking about family. They tend to be thinking about these things. And, well, it's a good thing to be thinking about. And, I should tell you that this is the place where we talk about estate planning, elder. How many people do you think tuned into the radio this morning, thought, I'm going to find out what Michigan did against the spoiler makers last night? And no, you're stuck with estate planning and elder law. Well, real estate and business law. So you can give us a call. As I said, 616-774-2424. Anyway, people getting the family together and talking things through, and hey, is it time to put dad in the nursing home yet, or can mom be safely left at home? And what are we gonna do about all that? And the conversations have really changed over the years. It used to be very much, and it still is. And to be fair, in many families it still is a question of how are we going to take care of mom at home? How are we going to take care of dad at home? And it still is. That is a real question for an awful lot of families. But the times they are a-changing, as they say. And what we have happening now in many, many families is the kids aren't there. You know what I mean? I mean, back in the day, 8 kids in my family, right? So, I mean, they were kids. Take care of dad, take care of mom, and that was a real thing. And it still is. But, 4 kids in a family didn't used to be crazy. 5 kids was, everybody had 5 kids. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people. And now having 5 kids is like having 9 or 10 kids back when back when you were a kid, right? I mean, how many families had 9 kids? Not 8 kids, not many, right? But lots of people had 4 kids. Sure they did. Or 5 kids. Yeah. By the time you got 6 was a lot. But nowadays, if you have 2 kids, it's like, ooh, what do you know? And if you have 3 or 4, oh my God, you're trying to repopulate the planet or something, So it's different. And so when, what do they say, that the mills of the Lord grind slow, but the wheels of justice, or whatever, the mills of justice grind slow, but they grind exceeding fine. Meaning, sooner or later, you're going to get yours. And so you didn't have kids before, and now you don't have kids now. And so who's going to take care of you when you're old and gray? The answer is, I don't know, hire somebody. Seriously. I mean, that's where we're at. And I just read another report on, and there's more and more of this stuff coming out. It was about staffing levels in long-term care facility. It's hellacious. That's the only word for it. I mean, try going into a long-term care facility. I know now that COVID's over, you can actually go to a nursing home, right? It's the staffing it's impossible, and the prices, you talk about double impossible. And here's another thing to throw on top of it. Faithful listeners know that we're all about, the Medicaid, using Medicaid, the government program that you already paid for, sort of like Medicare, like Social Security, you already paid for these things. The fact that you don't take advantage of them, who's crazy enough not to take advantage of Medicare? Who's crazy enough to say, Social Security, you can just keep that. Go ahead. Yeah, I paid in to it, but you just keep it. I don't need it. Really? Yeah, because the government knows what to do with your money better than you do. But people do take that attitude when it comes to the long-term care. It's like, yeah, I paid for it, my tax dollars at work, but nah, I don't want any. Really? Well, okay. All right, fine. But that's not an option anymore. If it ever was, and I don't think it was really an option. It's just, it wasn't an option, but it came as a surprise. People were surprised to learn. They were surprised to learn that, you can't do this yourself. It doesn't matter how much you saved. We've had people go from millions to Zippo, paying for the long-term care. And if you've got a few $100,000, that's intended to keep your spouse comfortable, right? Well, we'll try looking at what it costs at any kind of long-term care these days. You want someone in the house, someone who's got 6 hours of training and purple hair with spikes and piercings. Well, you're talking $20-$30 an hour, at least, right? You want a real nurse, $60-$70 an hour, $50 an hour. That's just common stuff, right? You want to be in a long-term care facility where the staffing is so bad and all the rest of this. And it's not like those people aren't trying. Oh my goodness, they're trying. You bet they're trying. But, and like I say, I'm just repeating the reporting. Plus that I've read, plus what I've seen. I mean, this is what is going on there. This is what happens when the rubber hits the road. And you think, the church lady will do it. Church lady ain't there no more. Well, my kids will do it. You didn't have that many kids. I'm sorry. I was listening to a preacher show today about John the Baptist, telling the Pharisees they were going to brood of vipers. They're all trying to figure out, how can we make that into something good? And it's like, it wasn't good. He was saying these guys are bad. And then the preachers are trying to figure out, what was so attractive about John the Baptist? It wasn't the gentle message of Jesus. You think Jesus had a gentle message? Somebody ain't been reading their Bible. I'm sorry, preachers. You need to read your Bible a little bit more. You know what I mean? If you think Jesus was this gentle, forgiving, whatever, come on. And then it's like, why would people like John the Baptist? Because he had a message, maybe, make straight the way of the Lord and all that stuff. I mean, sometimes people need to be called on things. You know what I'm saying? They need to be exhorted to do the righteous thing. So you can, no, I'm not John the Baptist. No, I'm not. I have been described by my clientele, some of the folks I work for, as, voice crying in the wilderness. Well, that was John the Baptist, right? Simply because we're pointing out some stuff that people don't want to hear. They just don't want to hear it. I don't blame you for not wanting to hear it. It doesn't make it go away, though. Are you with me on this? Does that make any sense? It's much better. Let's ignore all our problems, because then when the Titanic goes down, then we start looking for the lifeboats. We'll be like, got no lifeboats. maybe a lifeboat would be a good idea, huh? Maybe taking some of this stuff seriously would be a good idea. It's too late to have 8 kids. All right. It's too late for that. You know, you didn't do that part, but that's fine. Different lifestyle, different, 50s weren't the 60s, weren't the 70s. I get it. On the other hand, what are you going to do now? Because those built-in safety nets, those built-in social structures aren't there anymore. You can't even find a preacher. Well, I guess you could if you looked on the internet, right? Who's willing to say that when John the Baptist, said that the clergy were a bunch of vipers leading the people astray, all right? You can't find anybody to honestly admit it. I mean, you can listen to a whole show, and it's like, it's all them talking around it. Oh, what's a brood? Oh, it's a bunch of baby animals. It's a brood of vipers. not little garden snakes, like poisonous snakes. You don't get it. Anyway, so you should get it, right? You're not a brood of vipers or nothing, but recognizing reality, I think, is fundamental. And part of the reality of the situation that we confront ourselves with, this reality that we're living through right now, the inflation is up, the recession is on. These things are true. I mean, you can't go shopping for a turkey and tell me you don't know that. You just had Thanksgiving. Remember what it cost, right? Well, it cost a lot more this year than it did last year. And it's going to cost more going forward. And that's just a small part of it. Do you see? You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. What can you do to plan ahead? Well, coming to a life plan workshop is a good first start. And I promise I won't call you a brood of vipers or nothing, or anything. I won't be bad like that. But you're listening to the David Carrier Show. I'll see you right. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. And can you tell it's live? Oh, yeah. You think we make these mistakes on recording? Heck no. Anyway, is life difficult? Yeah, it can be. It can be. Is it worth it? Yeah, at the same time. Sure it is. So plan ahead. And right now, Christmas time, people are thinking about, some people anyway, thinking about that planning ahead and who's going to be in charge and what are we going to do about it and all the rest of it. And if you're the one who, your kids, they stop talking when you walk in a room, you know what I'm saying? They're talking about you. Okay. Kids do talk about their folks, and that's just the way it is. So one of the things I've always been a big fan of, big believer in, is if you don't have a plan. See, here's the thing. If you don't have a plan, your kids have a plan for you. Does that make sense? If you haven't figured this thing out, they're thinking about it. And it's one of the things that really kind of, I don't know if amazement is the right word, but it kind of amazes me, the degree to which kids think that it's all about how you bring up the subject. You know what I mean? Of what do we do about mom? What do we do about dad? As if there was some way that if they just were sneaky enough about it, you wouldn't notice. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't notice that they were talking about care for you or something like that. They weren't talking about options that didn't have to do with you living at home anymore. And it's just kind of amazing. Well, we got Jose on the line, and we'll get back to that topic. Hello, Jose. Welcome to the David Carrier Show.
Hello.
How can I help?
So, my wife died recently.
I'm sorry.
And we lived in a home together, and now it seems like I'm going to have to move out because she died without a will. Now the kids want to come in and sell everything. So just wondering what are the rights for me as a husband?
Well, are you on the deed to the house, or did you buy it together, or was it her house and then you got married? These are not your kids. What's going on?
Yep, she bought the house. We bought it together. I'm not in the deed. That was her intention, though, that I be on the deed.
Mm-hmm.
And no, those are not our kids. So those are her kids.
Yeah.
Basically.
Are
So
the kids
just,
on the deed? Are the kids on the deed?
No, they're not.
Just her.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's a spousal allowance. I mean, you get the first. Basically, the way it works is the first. It's $130,000 goes to you. What's the house worth? Just ballpark it. I'm not looking for
around $70,000.
Yeah,
$70,000.
Yeah. So before they start selling stuff, changing the locks and whatnot, have you talked to a lawyer about this yet, or is this the first time?
First time.
Okay, so you really need
haven't talked to anybody yet.
Yeah. How long ago did she pass?
A few weeks ago, 5 weeks.
Okay, so before they file in probate court to be personal representative, which they could do, even without a will, they're relatives. You've got top priority to be appointed as a personal representative. But there's a process whereby they just ask to do it, right? They just file the paperwork. And if you don't respond, I think it's a week, 7 days, maybe it's 10. I think it's 10. 10 days. If you don't respond, they get appointed kind of automatically as the personal representative. And now they have authority to sell stuff and do whatever. Now, they have to do it pursuant to the law, meaning that they have to give you your marital allowances and all the rest. But you'd rather not have them in charge anyway, right? Because they can come in, oh, that was mom's stuff, and now they have a yard sale or they take stuff out of the house. Well, It ain't necessarily so. What you need to do, my suggestion, and guess what? We do this kind of stuff. Oh yeah, Terry Macklin in our office is the head of the probate trust administration department. But we've got all kinds of written stuff. You can see it on the website too. But you need to come on in and go over what your rights are, because without a will, there's a number of allowances that go to the surviving spouse. That's you. Okay. And then over and above that, then you split it with the kids. Well, her kids. But but if the house is 70,000, you're going to get the house, you're going to get the contents of the house. All that stuff is going to come under your marital allowances, assuming that you couldn't prove you owned half of it anyway, because you live together and you're working, she's working, and everybody's contributing, or your Social Security, what have you. But no, I mean, you can't. Where are they barging in the house and pricing things now? Can't wait to have the yard sale. Is that what they're doing?
They did it once, and they've been kind of standing back for a little bit. But now I hear there's a talk about attorneys and everything. So that's all I could tell you. But I'm just in the process of securing someone to get some advice.
Yeah. Well, you need to do that. If it's us or it's somebody else, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's pretty clear. Pretty clear what your rights are under the State Protected Individual Code here in Michigan. So, yeah, you don't have to put up with that.
Okay, very nice.
All right,
very relieving to know that.
Thank you, you betcha. Now, of course, you're going to get your will done, right? So this doesn't happen again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
Wills and powers of attorney and all the rest. You betcha. No problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for calling, Jose. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. But this is what happens sometimes, when people just kind of take over, and you do have rights, and you don't. It's not enough to have your legal rights. You need to be the one who's actually implementing them. This is my point of view, because it's easier not to get into trouble than it is to fix the trouble after you've been into it. And if you've got someone who doesn't like you, who's pulling the strings, or has, just say, conflict of interest, right? If you don't get it, I get it. You don't want them being in charge of figuring out what you get. Does that make sense? I hope so. I know it's not particularly charitable or whatever, but there it is. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Donner and Blitzen. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. Do you recall the most important document of all? Well, probably powers of attorney, actually. Probably more important than a will, because the powers of attorney have to do with you while you're alive. So if you got nothing else, if you say, well, I don't want to rush things. I'm only 83 and, I don't want to rush into anything. So I'm just going to start with the very basics. Well, a healthcare power of attorney, I would call the very basics, because that forget about the money, right? I mean, making sure that it's not your care doesn't wind up in probate court. That would seem like an important thing. Oh, and by the way, 616-774-2424, 616-774-2424. That's the number to call if you're have any question about any of this stuff: wills, trusts, probate, estate planning, elder law. How do I not go broke? Oh, in an environment where that's just more and more likely. Craziness, huh? And planning ahead, good idea, right? Here we are, going to make a list, naughty and nice, all the rest of that. Maybe that's a little planning ahead. We were just talking to Jose on the phone, whose wife died several weeks ago, and she owned the house. She has kids, and the question is, $70,000 house? Probably not. It's probably worth more than that. But the and then the question is, the kids are coming in and they want to have a yard sale and sell the house and divide the proceeds. Well, it doesn't work that way. Okay, it does not work that way. First of all, the spouse has a housing allowance, as a homestead allowance, and these allowances are things that come off the top, right? So before creditors. And I think it started like at 15,000. It's over 20,000 now, like, I don't know, 22, 23, 24,000, something like that. It's significant. I could ask Terry Macklin, she would know. But it seems to me it's like right around 24, maybe it's up to 25. And of course, with Biden inflation, it'll probably be over 30, because it's adjusted for the cost of living every year. So it's probably bumping up there again. Anyway, there's that. And then there's the spousal allowance. Now, here's the way the spousal allowance works. If your spouse didn't have any kids, spouse has no kids, has no parents, then you get it. It's all yours. If your spouse does, if you both have kids together, right? So your kids, you get the first 150. These are after all the allowances, including this 24,000 thereabouts, the homestead allowance. Then you get the first 150, and then you split the rest with the kids. If we got no descendants, no kids, but your mother-in-law survived, well, now you have to give a quarter of what you got. You get the first 150, and then a quarter of anything over goes to your mother-in-law. Wonderful, huh? But you didn't know that. Let's see. If you've got a kid of your own and they had kids, so yours, mine, and ours, but no ours. So it's just yours and mine. Then again, the spouse gets 150 plus half of the balance. Okay. So if you're the surviving spouse, you get 150 plus half the balance. If the descendants are not descendants of the surviving spouse, okay, so she's got kids and they're not your kids, then again, 150,000. I think I just said that. But then, and this is the situation as I understand it, none of the descendants are descendants of the surviving spouse. So those are all her kids. Then you get the first 100,000 plus half of the balance, which they adjust for inflation and all that. And you can elect against the will. If there was a will that disinherited you can elect against it. You get half of that stuff, even if your spouse tried to write you out of the deal. So if you got a $70,000 house and the usual furniture and what have you, you're going to be well within the spousal, you get the 24,000. So that bumps it up as well. So you're going to be fine. I mean, if you've got, obviously, if there's a substantial estate, if there's several 100,000, you're splitting that with your mother-in-law, with your stepkids, whoever. Okay, so that's the way that works. So is it a good idea to do a will? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Is it a good idea to do a trust? Yeah, I think so. There's some really cool things you can do in Michigan that most people aren't aware of. That we incorporate in our documents, but um, that you don't see very much. Like, for example, things you can do to protect your surviving spouse. For example, you can put, and Michigan is the only state that does this. I think Nevada does it. I think there's only 2 states. There's Michigan and one other state. I forget the other one. But I don't live there, so what do I care? I care about Michigan. There's a way to protect what you have against people coming from the outside attacking it. So let's say you have insurance, right? Life insurance. Well, you can owe money like crazy. Okay. The life insurance is going to go to your kids. Your kids get the life insurance. Let's say you had all this debt and 100,000 cash value life insurance, cash value, so that if you got sued while you're alive, they could come and get that $100,000. Well, after you die, that 100,000 is going to your kids. It's going to the beneficiaries of the life insurance policy. Are you with me on this? Okay. It's going to the beneficiaries of the life insurance policy. What if you didn't have 100,000? What if you had $100,000 bank account? Had a $100,000 bank account, and now you die? Could your creditors go after the bank account? Well, generally speaking, you say yes, even if you have beneficiaries on it, because what's it called, fraudulent transfer or voidable transfers, right? Well, there's 2 things we got going on in Michigan that make that bank account as secure, if you do it right, as secure as if it was life insurance, right? Because you can put in your will that your personal representative shall not pursue non-probate assets. Okay? Well, what if you put that in there? Now it's like that bank account, like life insurance. Okay? So number 1, you want to make sure that you got that in your will, and you don't. I guarantee you don't. So it's like telling you that there's nothing in your trust either, right? Again, is it every single time? Is it 100%? No, but it's 98.999, so it's close enough. That's what I think. These are all my own opinions, mind you. But you don't have it. I've never seen it, anyone else's stuff. So that's one thing. The other thing is, in order to be able to void a transfer, in order to avoid it, you have to say, you have to have actual intent, right? Well, we can get back to this when we get back. I know this is esoteric stuff. Like who really cares? You care more about the kids trying to put you in the slam, at Christmas time. But when else are they going to talk about it? Thanksgiving and Christmas. This is when people have those conversations. Admissions are way low in the 4th quarter. Guess what happens in the 1st quarter of next year? Admissions, they bump up. Ooh. That's right. You're going to get a greasy black peel. There you are. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. A nice banana. There you are. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. That's right. We are taking your calls now. If you give us a call, you're naughty or nice, it's fine by us. 616-774-2424. That's the number to call. 616-774-2424. That'll get you on with the studio. But you can also call us at the office. Just go to the website, davidcarrierlaw.com. And on davidcarrierlaw.com, that's where the phone number is and everything else. If you don't have one of them computer-y things, that's okay. 616-361-8400. 361-8400. So often people think they know what the law is. And this goes for lawyers too, because they've been doing the same thing so routinely. A lot of things get to be, let's face it, things get to be routine. And so lawyers, I mean, we go to these continuing legal education stuff, and some of the stuff they teach you there is just mind-boggling. But there's so much stuff in the law, okay, that really works out for your benefit if you only knew about it. That's what I was talking about in the last segment. These a couple of provisions, that you put them in there, and some of this is new developments. Yeah, some of it's been around for a while. Some of it is, you're going through stuff, and it's like, I wonder if I could use this like that. I wonder if this is something that could protect people even more. It's a constant. Well, it's like they said on Wide World, spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport. Well, we're spanning Michigan, give you the constant variety of law. How wonderful is that? But seriously, I mean, there are things we're always looking, we're always improving, we're always getting better at this. That's why they call it the practice, I suppose. Because there is no, it's over now and we're done with it. It's always a constant. How can we do things a little bit better? How can we get a little more benefit for the client? I know that, the situations, they don't always come up. They don't. So you say, well, yeah, so I could put these additional provisions in my will, and then my kids wouldn't have to worry about someone swooping in and taking their inheritance away. But that'll never happen to me because, and we live in a world where the vast majority of people, 80%, 90%, at age 65, it's 70%. You have a 70% chance, right? But as you get older, the probability goes way, way up of needing long-term care. And yet most people haven't planned for it, or they'll say things like, oh, that's what Medicare is for. No, it ain't. Medicare, oh, I got my savings for that. No, you don't. And it doesn't work like that. You're going to go broke. But that's how we work. So what happens in that situation where folks are so willing to deny the very obvious? Long-term care isn't that obvious? How did that not get to be obvious? How did it not? How was it that people just kind of ignored the idea that when you have fewer kids, then there are fewer kids later on to help you out, right? How do you ignore the fact that with the baby boomers getting older and having less kids, there's not so many kids around to help you, when you're old and gray, so to speak? How do you get around that? How do you not see that? Well, and that's pretty obvious. Some of the stuff I talk about, well, that is what I mostly talk about because it seems pretty obvious to me. But there are some of these other nuances, these little things that we do to find the slight edge, to make things better. Right now we're in a big effort to make sure that business owners don't lose out on some of the COVID tax breaks that there were, but they're missing out on them, and these were refundable. This is actual dollars from the IRS to the business owner if you kept people employed. That's a big push for us right now to make sure that you get, they call it the ERC, Employee Retention Tax Credit. It's a big deal. And we're all cranking away on it, making sure that employers, that people who kept their businesses going, kept people employed, because that's how you do it. We got some people who closed up, laid everybody off. You don't get it. But if during the COVID, if you kept people employed and you kept working ahead, right? And yet people don't do it, and it's like, hey, personal choice. I mean, but, I'm a big fan of, if you're going to go camping, right? Why don't you sharpen your knife? I mean, what's the point of, it was Abraham Lincoln said, if you have to chop down a tree in 6 hours, spend 5 hours sharpening the blade. Okay. And that's really what this is about. This is about this sort of estate planning so that you don't wind up in a situation where your spouse passes and now her kids are throwing you out of the house, or at least you're worried that they could throw you out of the house. And if you don't find out how this stuff actually works, you could wind up thinking that's the right thing. It's happened. We've seen it happen, where people just get buffaloed and out they go. And it didn't have to be that way. It could have been different, but it's this lack of planning ahead that really it gets you. And here's the thing that flabbergasts me. Not that you care how flabbergasted Dave Carrier is. I understand that, but the thing that blows my mind is when people go to the people who are supposed to know about this stuff, right? Like, you're supposed to know. I'm paying you a bunch of money, right? Because you know about this stuff. And if the documents that I see coming, the people bring in, when they're redoing their estate plan or whatever, and you go through the stuff and it's like, nope, don't got that, don't got that, don't got that, don't got that, which is bad English. I know. I apologize for that. But, it's done incorrect. I would say it's done incorrectly, but it's what everybody's doing. So, malpractice is not doing it wrong. You understand this? This is important. Legal malpractice is not doing it wrong. Malpractice is not when you fail to accomplish your client's goals. Okay? It's not. What it is you didn't accomplish your client's goals and you didn't abide by the standard of care. What's everybody else doing? So you point to various things and you say, well, nobody's doing that, and nobody's doing this other thing, and nobody's doing this, and nobody's doing that. And it drives you nuts, because it's like, well, how do you get any success if you don't do these extra things? How does that work? Well, that's okay, though, because everybody else is doing it this way, because everyone else isn't taking the things that I would say need to be done. It's not malpractice. And it just drives you nuts. I mean, it's like, how do you convince somebody, hey, you really need to spend a lot more time with these trust clients, because if you don't spend the extra time with them, if you don't do these various things, the trust is going to fail. Yeah. That's just accepted, that the trust is going to fail. But they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to spend the time, because then the cost goes up. Yeah, but at least it works. Yeah. How about that? And what does it hurt? What does it hurt to get people a little additional asset protection? That doesn't cost you anything. Just update the documents. And now you can get that for your client. Me. They don't. Just, I don't know. It does kind of drive you nuts. But it's a constant process. I guess that's my point. Always trying to sharpen the blade, sharpen the saw, get it better, do it better. And it's got to be that way, because if it isn't, then where are you? Then you're naughty, not nice. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, not leaving lumps of coal in your stocking. Hello, and welcome to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. And now's the time to give us a call and, I don't know, get your question, comment, or concern on the air. There you go. How about that? It's like sort of like an early Christmas present, right? We got to wait a long time for Christmas this year. I hear it's on the 25th, though, so it's coming along. It's coming along. 3 more weeks, right? Not that long. So, but if you have a question, comment, or concern right now, well, give us a shout. 616-774-2424. That's area code 616-774-2424. And it's a free call wherever you are. So just call us and get over with. We deal with estate planning. What's estate planning? I don't have an estate. Yeah, you probably do, actually. But estate planning is wills, trusts, probate, powers of attorney, all that kind of stuff. Then we got the elder law, which is how do you hang on to, 2 cents? How do you hang on to any of what you've got? That's what the elder law stuff is all about. Most people ignore it. Most people do ignore it, and they wind up broke because of it. Well, you don't have to go broke in long-term care. You don't have to. That's like so much else in life. It's a choice. You're choosing that, So if you wind up in a long-term care situation, well, come crying to me, because we can fix it. I mean, there's stuff you can still do. It's expensive and it's not as effective as planning ahead. But what is? Is there anything that's more effective and less expensive than planning ahead? Well, you plan ahead, then there's good stuff that can be done, and very effective stuff as well. But if you don't, well, you're not was it say in the Bible? Out, you thrown out without where there's wailing and gnashing of teeth and rending of garments and stuff like that. Well, it's not like you couldn't have done better, but the worst is just to, like lambs to the slaughter. You know what I mean? And that's how most people. It's so frustrating because that's how most people do it. It's just like, oh, there's nothing I can do. Oh, there's nothing I can do. Go ahead, take the work of a lifetime and demolish it in the next 5 minutes. Go right ahead. Okay. 5 months, whatever. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. But that's your choice. It's not it's not chance. It's choice. It's your choice. We also do with real estate and business law. We've got Jerry on line 1. Hello, Jerry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
David, I have a question for you.
Fire away.
My brother, the trustee of my mom's trust, sent us the copy of the will, and they amended it with a clause that limits distribution, which gives my brother, the trustee, the ability to decide whether or not the person is competent enough to get the money and use it in a responsible way.
Mm-hmm.
And that could include spousal problems, drugs and alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Gambling. Is that common for those types of clauses?
No, it's very uncommon. You don't usually see it. What you usually see is sort of a blind, throw the money out the window, give the kid a pillowcase of cash, give the beneficiary the pillowcase of cash thing. That's what you usually see. I'm not a fan of the pillowcase of cash method. Okay. I'm a bigger fan of what your mom apparently has done in putting some ability, giving the trustee some power to say, I'm not giving it to the bankruptcy trustee. I'm not giving it to my ex-sister-in-law. I'm not giving it to whomever. Do you see?
Sure.
See, the thing is, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I guess in a way you're saying it's kind of a good thing.
I think it's a really good thing. Now, you got to be careful.
Okay.
And you got to build. So the way we build our trusts, right, there's always that protection because what they call a third-party supplemental needs trust or discretionary trust, it doesn't get any better than that in terms of asset protection. So the federal government, so if your mom leaves you the inheritance in one of these trusts, right, where you got a third-party grantor, which would be your mom, and a third-party trustee who makes the discretionary distributions, that'd be your brother, perhaps.
Sure.
And now you didn't pay your taxes for the last 20 years, and the federal government's coming after you. Your brother, the trustee, can still hold on to the money, okay, and buy you a car with it. Well, the car's not titled to you because they'd seize it. Instead, it's in the trust. Or a house.
Well, lucky for us, that's not an issue. He did get the taxes straightened out. See, the thing is I do have a brother that they're not getting along. And he is going through some spousal problems and some alcohol problems. Could my brother, the trustee, hold back money from the problem child?
Not only can, but should. Right? I mean,
I think that's why they did it. Anyway, that was my question.
But you see, but Jerry, here's what I'm saying. It should be done for you too. You see? It should be done for you as well, because anyone can get, they changed the insurance laws, right? Anyone can get into a car accident nowadays, right? I mean, that still happens, I think.
Yes.
It's stuff.
It's very unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's all kinds of. Yeah, I think it's really good. I think everybody ought to do it. Now, I also think that we shouldn't rely on, let's say you had a brother named George, Jerry and George there, right? I don't want you to have to rely on George's goodwill. So what we do in our trusts is we give the trustee the authority. We give the beneficiary, that'd be you, if brother's being a jerk, you can replace him. Okay, you get to choose who the person with the keys to the kingdom is. Now you don't have them. It's got to be an independent person, right? But you don't have the keys, but you get to decide who that person is. Yeah.
Now, say the trustee, my brother decides I'm not going to give my other brother, the problem child, any money. Yep. What recourse does the problem child have to get the money?
Well, if it's the problem child, and I know it's a problem child, I don't give him authority to fire the trustee. Jerry, I give authority to fire the trustee. Pick whoever you want. But if I got the problem child who's demonstrated, alcohol and all that, has demonstrated an inability to handle this stuff, I don't give him the authority. I don't give him the key. I don't let him fire. I don't let him fire Solomon brother. The brother who's being the smart guy about this. I don't give him the authority to fire him. But routinely we do. So you have that layer of protection. Do you see?
Sure.
And
it's really a shame that's going to tear this family apart. I'm afraid all this money. And you answered a lot of my questions, Dave. I really appreciate your time. I just got to my destination. I'm walking down to the lower part of the Muskegon River as we speak.
No kidding. What are you going to the lower part of the Muskegon River for? Steelhead?
Just to walk. I'm getting exercise this morning.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All righty then. Thank you, Jerry.
You betcha. Bye now.
You bet. Yeah. So here's the thing, and we've got I don't know how much time we got left. But I'm a big fan. See, this is what I was talking about. This is exactly what I was talking about in the last segment. There's ways to use documents. There's ways to set things up that are so much more beneficial to the individual, to the family, really good stuff you can do. And most people just don't do it. A lot of people have trusts, right? And I would bet you that in Jerry's mom's trust or dad's trust, whoever it is, we got the problem child with the alcohol and the spousal issues, right? So we're going to protect against that. But what about Jerry? There he is on the lower Muskegon River. It's remember that old Charles Bronson movie, Death Wish? He goes walking by the Hudson River and he gets mugged. Well, what if there's somebody waiting for Jerry like that? Holy cow, I hope not. But, a bear comes out of the wood and mauls him. I don't know. Whatever. Something bad happens. So that Jerry getting the money would be a bad thing, would not be a good thing. Well, I can almost guarantee you that it's not set up for Jerry, right? For Jerry's brother to protect Jerry's inheritance for Jerry. I almost guarantee you it isn't, because it never is. We do it, but boys crying in the wilderness and all that. There's ways to set these things up. There's very good things that can be done, right, to protect against things that, it doesn't always happen. I'm not saying that's 100%. Nothing in life is 100%, right? It's not like that. But some things happen that can be disastrous. And even if you don't have, right, the red flags and the signals blaring you in the face, like you got a kid with, substance abuse issues and all the rest of this stuff, well, that's kind of a red, alarm bells going off. Good thing mom took care of that. That's great. That's great. And it should do the absolute opposite of tearing the family apart. This should be viewed as a total act of love on mom's part. And the fact that you got a brother who's willing to step up, right? Now's the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. Now's the time for all good people, all good family members to support the one who's helping out with mom's plan. It's a very, very good thing that mom's doing, not a bad thing. And it's a very, very self-sacrificing, very good thing that brother's doing to step up as trustee, to do the righteous thing. Those people need to be supported. Because I'll tell you what, it's easy. It's easy to get somebody to be trustee once. It's easy to get them to do it once. All right. But there's no way on God's green earth they'll ever do it a second time. Okay. Because once you're actually as a trustee and you find out what's actually involved, holy cow, nobody wants to do it again. So support your local, support your local trustee is what I'm saying. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Now's the time. Give us a call, 616-774-2424. If you have a question, comment, or concern about wills, trusts, or probate, if you're wondering how to beat the high cost of long-term care, nobody's buying real estate anymore, are they? I mean, that was so 2022. Oh, wait a second. It still is 2022. Yeah, but interest rates have gone from what? 2%, under 2% to over 8%, 7-8% now. Crazy. Well, that's where we're at, my friends. Welcome to the real world, I guess. Oh, and by the way, I hope you're not planning on heating with petroleum products, because you see this? Ann Arbor is making it illegal, or they're trying to hook up to natural gas. It's like, no, you got to use electricity. Okay. And where did the electricity come from? Coal. I'm serious. You can't make this stuff up. I mean, that's where they get their power. They get it from coal-fired power plants, right? But it's electricity. It looks clean when it comes out of the wall, I guess. But in natural gas, it's the ignorance, the basic, fundamental, brutal ignorance of thinking that generating electricity from coal, sending it down the wire, right, is going to be more efficient, better for the planet or something. I mean, that's what they got to be telling themselves, don't you think? They got to be telling themselves this is good for the planet. We don't want any of them flames. Them's bad. Oh, petroleum products, terrible. It's like, where do you think this stuff comes from? Oh, and by the way, we could have, clean nuclear. Oh, no. We're not doing none of that, atom stuff. Oh, that's atomic. That's got to be bad. Oh, my goodness. No wonder they live in the basement. I guess it's warmer down there. Anyway, well, don't you sometimes just have to look around and just kind of shake your head? What is going on? Right? Well, I'll tell you, I don't know what's going on. All I know is there are some things that can be done. Is that old saying about better to light one candle than curse the darkness, right? And every once in a while, along comes a breeze and blows out your candles. Well, that's the way it is. Okay, that's the way it is. So what are we going to do about it? I don't know. Just keep a smile on your face, keep working hard, right? Do the best you can. That's all you can do. And hopefully create your own family as sort of an oasis of sanity, right? And part of that oasis of sanity has to be, I think, I didn't used to think this, but I'm coming to it. The whole to materially provide, meaning money, right? I mean, not to die broke. I'm beginning to think it's more than. Obviously, none of us want to live broke, So you work hard and you save your nickels and you do all that. That's all good. But given the craziness that's going on, more maybe paying it forward to the kids, maybe leaving something for the kids is more important than it used to be. I tend to think that. I do tend to think that it is more important than it used to be. If there's something that you can do, it's not the most important thing. I don't believe that. I do believe that taking care of yourself, taking care of your spouse, that's number one. Obviously, it seems obvious to me that that's number one. But it does seem to me that a little more looking out for the next generation in a way that makes sense. See, part of the problem is people look at it as like Jerry, he's talking about his brother's got issues. Okay, Jerry doesn't have issues. The trustee brother doesn't have issues, right? Yet, now, right? The other brother's got, what you would call maybe like some lifestyle type issues, like substance abuse, like poor choice of marital partner. He's got those those things. And you say, well, that's the kid's own fault. But it's not about fault, right? It's about making sure, because, something bad happens to you. Bad things don't just happen to bad people. Bad things happen to good people. And if it happens to you, then what's the plan, right? What's the plan for you? What's the plan for your family? Moving on. And I know it's not fun to talk about this stuff. I get that. But, it is the holiday season. This is the time when you do kind of reflect perhaps a little bit more on family, on the future, and all the rest, little, hope and all the rest of that stuff, all that good Christmassy stuff, New Year's coming. It could be a good year. It could be a new year. There's something you can do about it, right? And like I say, I sort of really kind of changing my my perspective on the thing. Just looking at what that next generation and the following generation, have to deal with, and it ain't, what they have to deal with is not what we had to deal with. I guess is my point. It's different, and not in a good way. So all the more reason, it seems like to me, to be a good steward of the gifts that you've been given. Don't take your talents and bury them in the ground. Do something with it. Be actively engaged. Certainly you don't want to lose. I get that. At the same time, there is the possibility of making things better. Why can't we make things better? I think we have that authority. I think we have that power. I think you have that power to make things better, if that's what you choose to do. And what the show is about, and what this practice is about, my law practice, it's all about giving tools to the people like you who have good intention, who've worked hard, who've done all the right things. And now it's about doing those things in a smart way. And if it's not what you want to do, fine. I'm not here to convert anybody. But if it is something that you want to do, you can't look at it like, oh, there's nothing I can do, so I'm not going to do anything. No. I'm here to tell you there are good things that you can do. You just have to choose to do them. And that's on you. Seems like to me. So if you have a question about that, what the hell is he talking about? Well, give us a call. Give us a call. Why don't you? 616-774-2424. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Let your heart be light. Have yourself a merry little estate plan. Anyway, 616-774-2424. That's the number to call. Call us right now, 616-774-2424, if you have a question, comment, or concern. So here's we're going to get to some of our emails here. See, people always say quick. It's quit, Q-U-I-T, quit. Is it quick to get one? Yeah, it's quick to get one. Will you regret it? You know what they say? How does it go? Something about bad decisions. They're quick to get into and you regret at your leisure. Something like this, some saying like that. Anyway, can a quick claim deed be overturned after 20 years if it was done with a lawyer? My mom wanted to protect her house from Medicaid if she would go in a nursing home. Okay, that's a reasonable goal, right? My oldest sister at the time was going through Chapter 13 bankruptcy. My mom wanted me to be the owner of the home. So we went before a lawyer. And he witnessed the exchange of money for the house. How much money? You don't even have to do that if you don't want to. My mother had a clear mind and was not forced to do this. Can this be contested? Well, it's America. Everybody gets to sue everybody for everything. So, you got to keep those litigation attorneys in business, right? But the short answer is no. This is one of those, if it was done properly, if there was exchange of value, there was consideration, it was done legally, almost impossible to overturn these things, which is why it's so stupid. So ill-advised, an ill-advised strategy. Yes, we wouldn't call it stupid. An ill-advised strategy to put your kids on the deed. And yet people have done it so often. Just such a bad idea because you can't get out of it later on. I mean, I give you chapter and verse and already have on the show, different cases where it just disastrous. disastrous. So don't you do it. So it's not that it can't be contested. If the family members, the sister with the bankruptcy and all the rest, 20 years ago, can she make some argument? I suppose she could. Could she spend a bunch of money on lawyers and lose and make you spend a bunch of money on lawyers? I suppose. That's the thing about litigation. I think, I forget who it was, Oliver Wendell Holmes or one of those turn of the century, last century, Supreme Court justices who said, there's only twice in my life have I been ruined. One was when I lost a lawsuit. The other was when I won one, won a lawsuit. To give you some idea of the expense. They often say that the process is the punishment, right? And boy, that's true when it comes to litigation. Sometimes, they just put you through it. Now, they keep doing things to make litigation quicker and less prone to this kind of thing, the game playing of the punishment. Process is the punishment. And of course, you're not supposed to do that. It's already unethical, which is not to say people don't do it. They do. And you have to recognize the practical effects of going through litigation and discovery and all the rest of this. But there have been, over the years, of course, and more recently, very serious efforts made to streamline the process, to make it more systematic, so that it gives less opportunities for that sort of punishment through the process. But it's still out there. I mean, it's just reality. I'm very familiar with one lawsuit where the allegation is, the point is, what they're fighting over, the amount of money that's being fought over, right, is, if you took the attorney fees for both sides, it'd be at least 10 times what they're fighting over, at least. And yet, somebody gets, a wild hair up there, wherever. And now, everyone's spending tons of money to no purpose other than to make their attorneys happy. And it's just the attorneys, because at the end of the day, there isn't going to be anything that couldn't have been worked out in about 10 minutes of reasoned conversation. I'm not kidding. I mean, and this is not unusual. But anyway, so if mom did a quit claim deed way back when, can sister contest it now? Yeah. Will she succeed? No. I mean, we can play the game. So, well, you never know what a court's going to do. Yeah, you never know, but it's not that hard. Let's see. Here's another one. My mother's 81, has previously made her will. Now my brother has mentally abused her to make changes to the will. How can we fix it? I think I did a column on this, actually. He scared her by telling her she'll hurt anyone she's placed on the will for her home. Now she's saying she'll give it to him because she didn't want anything to happen to him when she dies. Well, what about the other people? Anyway, the will was previously done and isn't changed yet. What can we do? She's told her he suffered lots and blames her for not taking care of him. Okay, so he's manipulative. Manipulative and greedy. Gotcha. He would always do it, but she never fell for it. She always said the home is for all her children. Now she's 81. He has broke her, and she now feels she needs to help him. So, how do you fix it? Well, I don't know. Create a safe space for mom. See, here's the way this undue influence is what you'd call this, right? But the case law is pretty clear. The usual family relationship stuff is not undue influence. So if someone begs and pleads, that's not undue influence. If they don't invite you to Thanksgiving dinner, that's not undue influence. If you say, you'll never see your grandkids again, well, that's not undue influence. It's more like, I'm going to punch you in the face. Okay, well, there's some undue influence, right? Now, the way you sort this out, sort of the big way they sort this all out, is by making people prove stuff that's very difficult to prove. Okay. So let us say that it's brother, that mom trusts brother for some reason. Like it's not just every once in a while. Not just every once in a while he comes around and says, hey, you should put me on the deed. Instead, he's managing mom's life for her, right? And he's been named as her trustee or PR, personal representative or something like this. Well, then it's on him to prove that there was no undue influence, which is like impossible to do. You can't prove a negative. So now go ahead and prove that there was no undue influence. Very, very difficult. Okay. But if he did not have that special relationship, now it's on the other people to prove that there was undue influence. Well, how the hell do you prove that? Especially if she went to a lawyer and got this done, and the lawyer says, yeah, there's witnesses and stuff like this. So it all turns on, did the family member who benefits have a special relationship of confidence and trust? And it doesn't have to be just legally. It could also be, he lives with her, he sees her 24/7, he's the caregiver, et cetera, et cetera. So this is where, when you're a caregiver, you have to be very careful about mom saying, okay, you can have the house because you've been taking care of me for all these years. The undue influence burden falls on you to prove there was no undue influence. You can do it if it's documented, right? But you got to document it. That's the point. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Now's the time to give us a call. It's almost past time, but you can always go to the website, davidcarrierlaw.com. And at davidcarrierlaw.com, you can sign up for one of our free life plan workshops. We are doing the cookies. We got all kinds of special stuff going on nowadays for the life plan. And I tell you what, it is so, I think COVID's finally over because instead of seeing, 10 people, 5 people at the workshops, we're not quite back to where we were pre-pandemic. And we're still doing some, I guess you might call it social distancing a little bit, but you know what I mean? We have fewer people in the room, but the room's full again, which is like amazing and wonderful. And we really like it. So come to a life plan workshop. Absolutely love to see you there. We've got Ryan on the line. Hello, Ryan. Welcome to the David Carrier Show.
Good morning, David. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. How can I help?
Okay, here's a scenario, and I'll take the answer off the air. But
sure.
I've been married twice, and I've been married now for the second time for 20 years, and I am older than my wife. And so my chances of leaving this earth are probably greater than hers first. And I have 3 children from my first wife, and she has 3 children from her first husband. And yet there is no protection for my children for our assets, which have become substantial.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk to her about it, it seems to be an issue for her of trust in our marriage. And I keep telling her, well, but if I leave and you have all the assets, my children end up with nothing, and possibly your children could end up with everything. So
right,
I'll take
sure.
that answer off the air.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, and with blended family, the way, or the yours and mine situation, yours, mine, and ours situation, it's a real issue. So there are ways to handle it. Now, it takes good faith on both parts, right, on both sides. And I tend to view it as an holistically, if you want to call it that. But you got to look at all aspects of it, because the first thing is, you're a guy. Yeah, you're going to die first. And guess what? You're going to suffer from dementia first, too. You're going to break down first. And then where's the family money go? The answer is, she winds up with $130,000, right? And the rest of it goes for your care. So first things first, and so if you broaden it out from just a real narrow perspective, which is, I want to make sure my kids get something which means that you don't get everything. Okay, which is a real touchy, very touchy situation. I mean, what's in it for her? Nothing. It's all about your kids and what about me? And you go down that rabbit hole. Well, instead, if you take a bigger view of the thing, it's like, well, number one, we've been married 20 years. I want to take care of you first and foremost. Well, how am I going to take care of you first and foremost? Well, what's the threat? Well, the threat is, I go Looney Tunes and I'm in a nursing home, or you're paying some ridiculous amount of money per hour, or your whole life is involved in changing my diapers, or you know what I mean? I mean, get real about it. I mean, it's no joke. Okay. I mean, that's what you got to confront. So how do you qualify for the long-term care, the Medicaid? How do you qualify for that and protect what you have? Well, that's what we do all day. Okay. So first of all, you put together a plan that first and foremost is focused on her, is focused on you. All right. Let's take care of you guys first as part of the whole plan. Then the second thing is, okay, well, what happens when I die? All right. When you die, then what happens? Well, there are ways for her to have substantial control over what's going on, but also to say, okay, we're going to take X amount of dollars, or we're going to take X percent of the estate, or, you come up, there are ways to come up with formulas. We've done it where there's little argument. Okay. And your kids are not left out in the cold. Okay. But neither is your spouse. Okay. So you set this up so that your spouse gets the income. She's got management control, et cetera, over the money, but it's not an outright. See, right now you die first. It's her money. She gives it to her kids. The other, and if there's anything left after you have the dementia, the way I'm talking about it is the money's protected so that you don't lose it if you have dementia. You have dementia. Okay, fine. Medicaid pays for that, like Medicare pays for your pacemaker and all the rest, right? Social Security pays for your groceries. Medicare pays for your pacemaker. Medicaid pays for your long-term care. You put the money in. This is a way to get the money out without going broke. Okay. So that's the first step. Let's make sure that she's okay. Once you've done that, now we can talk about what happens when we die. All right. Well, what if we took half of what there is, you get 3 each, take half of what there is. Okay. And whether it's money or a house or what, you can talk about that. And she has investment control. She gets the income from it. Or maybe someone else has investment control and she gets the income from it. Okay. But that's a thing that you've got to talk about. You got to talk your way through that. Now the money, the family wealth that you've built up is being used for your spouse's benefit. Well, isn't that what you wanted? Security and all the rest of this. And it's not a matter of trust in the relationship. It's a matter of trust that you're not going to have dementia, which you've got a 70% chance at 65. And it just goes up from there. Okay. I mean, you're just denying reality not to recognize that. You've got to deal with it. And once you've dealt with that, then you can also deal with the rest of it. Now you're confronting it. Okay. If you've got dementia, right? How do I know that your kids won't take advantage? Oh, my kids would never do that. Yeah. Well, that's what famous last words. If you have dementia and how do you know that my kids won't take advantage? You don't. So you do it even, Steven. You do it both ways for both of you. All right. So number one is to protect the assets against the outside influence. The second thing is to make sure that there's an equitable distribution. And it's not going to be popular. I'm not saying it will be, because it won't be control. It won't be 100% control. But hey, it's 50% control, right? And the rest of it, it's for your benefit. And it's all off the table when it comes to long-term care. So you've protected it. You've protected her. And at some cost, yes, at some cost, in terms of, anxiety and trust and all the rest of those things, time to put your big girl pants on, you know what I mean? Time to face the music. These are real things, to take care of. But when you do it, you're not impairing at all her well-being. In fact, you're enhancing her well-being by making sure that she doesn't suffer nursing home poverty if something happens to you, given that you're older, given that you're a guy. That's the likelihood. Do you see? So what I would suggest, and it's not a way of, you're not hiding the ball. It's not 3-card Monte or something like that. The pea and the walnut shells. It's not like that at all. It's like, instead of focusing on the most painful thing, let's back off a little bit. Let's look at the wide range of potential situations that are real situations, right? Deal with them, and then deal with the kid issue as part of it. Do you see? Explicitly, forthrightly, everything else, but it's part of the picture. It's not the whole picture, would be my suggestion. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney.